Yeah, ma'am.
Shall we start?
Yeah, I'm ready. If you say we start, we start.
Okay. Good morning to everyone. I am Swapna Bode, working as assistant professor in computer department of BSET. Welcome you all in today's webinar on Internet of Things. It is my privilege to introduce our speaker, Mr. Sachin Sadre. He is corporate trainer and consultant. He has more than 20 years of experience in delivering digital solutions. He is founder and director of Digital Dojo India. He has done his MBA from Melbourne Business School, Australia in 2007. He is also associated with Ministry of Skills, Development, Entrepreneurship and IEEE Bombay chapter. Sachin sir is a keynote speaker advisor at various national and international conferences. Today his session will be on Internet of Things. Now I request Mr. Sachin sir to start the session.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, students. Uh, I hope you can all see my screen. Um, I think we just tested it, so I'm assuming that you can see my screen. If my screen is not visible, then you can write in the chat box, that the screen is not visible. If it's visible, that's fine. Okay, okay. So I've got some responses. That's fine. Yeah. In this topic, means I'll just give you a brief of what I'm going to cover. So a lot of students these days know about IoT. Okay. So when I speak about introduction to IoT, I'm not going to cover the basics of IoT, which I assume that a lot of you already know, because students today like to research, like to do, like to study some things by themselves. So I will speak only on those specific topics, which I think, you know, will be useful to you when you are trying to understand IoT. The reason I feel, I want to cover this is because, I started working in IoT in 2014. Okay. That was a time when people had not even heard about IoT, and that's where, I got interested, and then I started delivering lectures just to enhance my knowledge. So, one of the things that came out when I was doing IoT is that, a lot of students start understanding IoT from an Arduino's perspective. Okay. So it's a good Arduino is a good hardware. Arduino is a good hardware to start understanding the IoT. But IoT, there are some concepts, which if you understand well, you can use the Arduino in a much better way. So my whole presentation is going to touch upon a few specific points related to introduction of IoT, which I believe, or I have experienced, don't get addressed when IoT is getting introduced to students. With that, I would just like to speak 5 minutes about who I am and what we do. So the name of my company is Digital Dojo. Okay, we are primarily now into digital education. Um, we have online courses. I do corporate trainings. And I also do the services with respect to digital marketing. Last year I also established my company office in Europe. So right now we are working across Europe and India, with some of our customers. Again, we are a small company, but the dreams are big. Let's see how it goes. So that's a little bit about my company. I won't take you in detail, but my bread and butter is my online courses. And I have my own platform, which is LMS. There are courses on that. There are certain elements of the platform which are very unique to what we do, as a result of which people get interested in our courses. We have courses on digital marketing, the big courses, the small courses. Then we also have something on smart city and IoT. So I'm not going to speak in detail. It's not a marketing. But one thing I would like to tell that we have a YouTube channel where I keep, I've got a good content team, and we keep churning out, information about the digital world. Like just the last week, we came up with a blog and a video on how Netflix has evolved, and how things will change for Netflix. So if you are interested, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, for more information. So that's it about me. I'll get to the crux of the topic for the day, which is Internet of Things. Okay. One thing that I strongly believe is that if you need to understand IoT very clearly, you should have a very clear conceptual understanding of four technologies, or four topics, which is known as SMAC. Okay. S stands for social, M stands for mobile, A stands for analytics, and C stands for cloud. There is no IoT project which doesn't touch the elements of the SMAC. Those uh, can I get can I get just answers in chat box? How many of you have worked on some some IoT project? You can just say yes or no. Uh, if you have worked on anything with Arduino, anything with IoT, just if you can say yes, I have worked. Okay. Anyone else who's worked something to do with IoT? Okay. So okay. So all those who have worked with IoT, at some point you must have used the cloud infrastructure to send data. You must have worked with some analytical tool to to get some insights from the data. And then when you get the insights, how do you present it to the person who needs it? It's in terms of a mobile app. Okay. So no IoT project is complete without cloud being involved, without analytics being involved, and without being involved. If any one of you who's done a project, will realize that social, mobile, analytics, and cloud kind of completes the IoT project. So it is very important for everybody who wants to work with IoT to have a very clear conceptual understanding of each of these. What does cloud mean? What does analytics mean? What does social mean? What does mobility mean? And obviously now we don't have much time, but with respect to cloud, there are a lot of misconceptions. When I ask students, what does cloud mean to you, I get varied answers. So okay, let me spend a few minutes. Can somebody tell me what does cloud mean to them? You can type your answers in the chat box. If you have to give a one-liner answer to what does cloud mean to you, the reason I'm asking for a one-liner answer is anything that you can explain in one-liner is an indication that you understand that concept well. The time. Okay, so Prathamesh says server. Okay, but is any server in your college a cloud system? So there is something more. So the definition of cloud. So something that can store data is what Sonakshi says. Now my laptop also stores data. Is it a cloud system? Okay. So now there are things, so students, though, we use the cloud, our understanding of the cloud is not as complete. So huge amount of storage data, that's what Rohini says. Okay. So if you say huge amount of storage data, if I buy, 15 or 20 huge servers, and I create a computer room, and I use it as a storage component of my business, will that count as a cloud? No. Okay. So the thing that I'm trying to bring out is I always tell the students, get to the point where you understand something crystal clear. So just very very quick thing, means when you're speaking about the cloud, you're actually speaking about something, in very clear terms, very simple, access anywhere, anytime. That is the fundamental principle behind the cloud. That a cloud has three basic criteria. The first criteria is accessing data anywhere at any point in time. Anything that allows you access anytime and anywhere can can be considered as a cloud system. The second element of a cloud system is you can ramp up or ramp down the storage in fraction of a second. So if you need, let's say you're using your Google Drive, Google gives you 15 GB data. You want more. You pay Google, within a minute you have access to 100 GB. So that is the second element or the second aspect of a cloud system. And the third aspect is is to do with commercial, that you pay for only what you use. So today, if I need 100 GB of data on Google, I pay Google, 1500 rupees a year. If I don't need it, I stop my subscription, and my storage goes down. So, it is very important to understand, so I just gave an example of cloud. Similarly, analytics, mobile, social, what are the foundational elements of these technology is very important if you want to proceed. And with IoT, understanding four: social, mobile, analytics, and cloud becomes very, very important. Let me give you a simple example. Okay, let me give you a simple example. Have you heard of Nike coming up with shoes, and with sensors in them? Have you heard of shoes with sensors? Yes, so you have heard. So what do sensors do? So what do sensors do in a shoe? Why do we need sensors in a shoe? If some of you want to unmute and want to speak, that's also fine. So because it might be difficult, take too long to type. So if you put sensors in the shoe, what do the sensors do? So obstacle detection is what Prakash says. Okay. What else? What else? What else will sensors in the shoe do? Right. So there are multiple things. It depends on the type of sensors that you put in. So the primary reason why sensors are put in, is so that they can track, just like a Fitband. The sensors in a shoe can track how many steps you have taken, how much you have walked. Apart from monitoring the environment, seeing obstacles. So those are secondary functions of the sensor in the shoe. The primary function of the sensor in the shoe is to know what is the physical activity of the person who's wearing the shoe. Now, what is the advantage of putting such a sensor in the shoe? When you put a sensor which determines the physical activity of the person, the steps, the calories, what are the advantages? Right. Thanks, Sonashi. So you can track that person. By just tracking the person, can we determine if the person is healthy or not? By just tracking? No, right? Because when you track, you only get data. For example, how much I walk is only data. Will it determine whether I'm walking enough or not? Will it determine whether my calories is in control or not? No, because it is raw data. Now, how do you analyze this data? So just imagine that there is a sensor in the shoe. It is generating data, every millisecond. Every millisecond or every second it is generating data. What happens to that data that is getting generated every second? Imagine you're wearing one of those shoes with sensors and you're walking. Every second or every millisecond or every duration, the sensor in that shoe is going to generate data by itself. So when the data, yes, Akhil, that's right. The data will go to the cloud. The shoe that you have bought has tied up, for example, Nike or the company whose shoe you are wearing has tied up with some cloud infrastructure. So whatever data that gets generated from the shoe directly goes, there is some element of Wi-Fi connection, directly goes and sits in the cloud. Now what happens? So once it goes in the cloud, is it enough to identify whether you are healthy or not? No. Right. Then what do? How will you know whether you're healthy or not? Now you got data in the cloud. How do you know whether you're healthy or not? You obviously need to run some analytics on the data, right? So what? Right, so now you need to work with this data, right, Akhil and Prakash? You need to work with this data, run some analytics, okay, to understand whether your data falls in the healthy category or whether it falls in the unhealthy category. Now, after you have run this analytics, you determine, that the person is healthy. How will you inform the person that the person is healthy? What is the measure? Let's say you are using a shoe of Nike. Nike is collecting data from your, as you walk, it is storing it in the cloud. It is analyzing your data, and Nike finds that you are healthy. How will Nike tell you that, you're doing a great job, you're healthy? Yes, it will be 99%, it will be through the mobile app. So if Nike is putting sensors in the shoe, Nike needs to ensure that there is a cloud infrastructure in place. Nike needs to ensure that there is an analytical system in place, and Nike needs to ensure that there is some kind of a mobile app through which the insights can be sent back to you. Now imagine, that Nike has tied up with some doctors, and then along with you, Nike will also inform the doctors that, let's say, I'm wearing it, and let's say for example, I'm a diabetic patient. So definitely my parameters will not be considered in the healthy category. So if things go drastically wrong, along with sending me the information, Nike will also send it to my doctor. So that my doctor knows what's happening, what's right, what's wrong, and I can be, my medicine can be changed, or I can be instructed some exercises. So if you see, this whole is an, would you, so is sensors in shoe an IoT project? Is it an IoT solution? Yes. So any IoT project has to have sensors. So sensors is the starting point of any IoT project, but it doesn't end there. If you want to complete an IoT project, you need to have a very solid understanding of how the cloud system will be built, because the data that got generated from the shoe, it needs to go and sit very nicely in the cloud. So you may be good, in designing the hardware, you may be good in designing the shoe, the sensor inside, the aesthetic. But if you don't know how the cloud system works, and you leave it to the end, it's not going to work, because if you don't put it into the cloud, your sensors are only going to generate data, and that is useless. Just generating data is a useless activity. Data is only useful when you analyze it and create insights out of it. So any IoT project needs to have a very strong cloud implementation, needs to have a very strong analytic solution sitting on top of the data, needs to have at least a decent mobile app that, the users will download and, use, and try to get information. And then within that app, there should be capacity, to share it with your doctors, to share it with your family. So that's where an IoT project starts with the sensor, but that is only the beginning. A sensor can only generate data. It cannot analyze the data for you. To complete the IoT project, you need the cloud, you need the analytics, you need the mobile, and you need the social element to work in completion. That's where, if you see this slide, the middle section, the middle section is the SMAC. It is called the third platform, or it is called the basic platform. Any IoT solution, and not just IoT, if you want to do anything in robotics, if you want to do anything in artificial intelligence, if you want to do anything in machine learning, a very crystal understanding of cloud, of SMAC is very important. And you being engineers, it's not just understanding, you should be hands-on. Tomorrow, if you want to work on IoT, machine learning, 3D printing, augmented reality, expertise on the SMAC solutions, you should be able to create mobile apps. If you say that, I'm an IoT engineer, but if you are not in a position to, write simple mobile apps on Java or something, you will be totally dependent on somebody else. You will not, and you will have to, buy whatever the other person is saying. So if you're doing IoT, a clear understanding of SMAC is very, very important. So this point is understood. You have understood why SMAC is important from an IoT understanding perspective. So this is something, that I like to introduce. So like I said before, the IoT doesn't start with the Arduino. No? Arduino is one of the ways in which you can implement the entire IoT project. But instead of Arduino, you can use, any other hardware device. What is more important is, what is the IoT solution? What are the sensors involved? what is the cloud system involved, what is analytics involved, what kind of apps are we creating, are we using any social interaction, are we creating a complete IoT solution, is the question that students need to understand before getting into the implementation details of an IoT project. So implementation is later on. Okay, so this point is understood. Shall I move to the next point that I wanted to explain? Okay. 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 So very quickly, so all the things which I feel, that you are aware of about IoT, I will rush through. I will only speak about, aspects which I think that, you might not be knowing, or, you might not be knowing very clearly. So as you all know, internet is a connection between people. It allows, two people or two entities to communicate. You can shop on Amazon, you can send me a WhatsApp message, so at any, it's basically between a system and a person. Whereas IoT is where things get connected to each other. So my shirt can communicate with my trouser, my specs can communicate with my watch, the car can communicate with the gate of the house, the house the house door can communicate with the music system of the house. The refrigerator can communicate with the alarm in the house. In the industry, the machines can communicate with the assembly line. So it's a process, or it's a mechanism where things can connect with each other. Okay, so it is no longer confined to people or living beings. Even inanimate, or what we call is the unliving objects, can be considered within the sphere of Internet of Things. So any questions so far before I move ahead? Okay. Now, see, I'll again go back to the shoe example. At the heart of IoT are sensors. I'm not sure, if you have heard about this old ad, a long time ago, there was a American ad, Thanda matlab Coca-Cola. I'm sure you must have at least heard about it, if not seen it. Similarly, IoT matlab sensor, there is no IoT project which can get completed without the use of sensors. The moment you use sensors, you are working on IoT. If you are not using sensors, you are not working on IoT. Itna yaad rakho, IoT matlab sensors. If you are working on an IoT project, the heart of the IoT project are the sensors that you are going to use. Now a sensor should do two things. It should sense and it should communicate. Okay. Now imagine the shoe that you are wearing from Nike. Okay. It is capturing how many kilometers that I'm walking, or the steps that I'm taking. So it is doing the job of sensing. But if it cannot communicate that data to the cloud, is it a good sensor for our purpose? No. Okay. So any sensor that you are choosing for an IoT project needs to complete two things. It needs to sense the data, and it also needs to send something. It also needs to send that data to the cloud. So when you're choosing sensors, not only you have to look at what is the data sheet, what is the sensor, what is the data that the sensor can generate. You also have to think, what is my cloud system, and can this sensor communicate with that cloud system? Tomorrow it may happen that you choose a sensor which is excellent in terms of generating the data, but it is not compatible with the cloud system that you are using in your IoT project. Then all the effort that you have spent in your IoT project will go waste. So when you're designing an IoT system, look at the sensors, look at the cloud, look at the compatibility, see how that sensor is going to communicate with the cloud. It is very, very important. This point is clear. So any sensor that you choose should not only satisfy the ability to sense, but it should also satisfy the ability to communicate that data to the cloud. Because unless that data goes to the cloud, it cannot be analyzed. Unless it is analyzed, insights cannot be taken. If insights are not taken, how do you let the person know, that something is good happening, good or bad with them? So any data that is generated via the sensor needs to go and sit in the cloud system. So you need to check when you're designing the system, whether this sensor that I'm using, does it have the capacity to connect with the cloud system that I have decided to use for my IoT project? Is this point clear? This point is clear with respect to IoT? Okay. Just few examples, if you look, again, this is a house in the United States or Western Europe. It is believed that, every house has more than 25 to 50 sensors, as of today. So, the doorknobs, the music system, the, whatever, it's the lights, everything, so the sensors have really penetrated into the houses of the Western economies. Now, again, I think this is a good point to talk about what do you call something as smart. Okay, so can you tell me what is your definition of smart? If, let's say, there is a house and there is a smart house, how is a smart house different from a normal house which is able to communicate back? Okay, so again, let's get to the specifics. Let's say, you have a car, okay. uh, when would you call your car a smart car? When does a car become a smart car? Smart technology. Okay, can we get specific? Can Right. So Shadab, I think your answer is very closely to what I'm expecting to say. Okay. So if I just put sensors in a car, will that car become smart? No. Okay. Because if you see, cars have had airbags for a long time. Airbags are there in cars for a long time. Now, what do airbags do? What is the function of the airbags? Yeah, safety. Now, tell me from an engineering perspective, it's not from a functional perspective. From an engineering perspective, what happens? How does the airbag work? Right, it provides safety during a crash, but how does it, what, how does it facilitate safety? What are the components due to which, the airbag opens up? So there is an impact sensor in the car. Okay. So what happens is when there is a collision, the impact sensor gets activated. The moment the impact sensor gets activated, the airbag blows up. So the impact sensor is we have heard, means we have studied in physics, that there is velocity, it is a difference in speed. Difference in velocity is acceleration. So all these mechanisms or all this physical physics is built into the sensor. Whenever there is a deacceleration, okay, it is considered as a part, as an impact. When the deacceleration comes to zero, it is considered as an impact. Suddenly the airbag opens up. Okay, this is how the safety mechanism of the car is built in. uh, can somebody mute, okay, so this is how the impact sensor. So there have been sensors in the car for a long time. So does that make our car a smart car? It does not. Just putting sensors in something doesn't make it smart. What makes the car smart is its ability to respond to real-time environment. I'm driving, cameras are working, sensors are working. So a smart car, a smart car is something that can look beyond the environment of the car that is being driven. Now, what the impact sensor does, it identifies collision of that car and it opens up the airbag. Obviously, it is a better car. It gives us safety. Uh, can I request Ms. Shruti Jadhav to just mute? It's creating, or if somebody can mute her, that would be great. I'm fine. Okay. Can I request Shruti Jadhav, or the organizer to mute Shruti Jadhav, if that's possible? So, ma'am, can you mute? I think you will have the ability to mute, as an organizer. Okay. Okay. So, a car which reacts to the systems within itself is not a smart car. A smart car is something that reacts to the real-time environment and takes decisions. Now, a driving car. Okay. Um, so a car which reacts to the external environment, is something that it can be termed as a smart car. I'll also give you an example. I've seen a lot of student projects, where they work on smart mirrors. Okay. Now, what they generally do, they connect their desktop to a mirror, and whatever is happening on the desktop is visible on the mirror, and they call it a smart mirror. Now, that's not a smart mirror, because that is only reacting to one system. A real smart mirror is something that will react to the external environment and make decisions based on the real life environmental parameters. Now, this is the definition of smart. Students and even industries have the ability or have this thing कि कुछ तो हम सेंसर डालेंगे और उसको स्मार्ट बोलेंगे and we'll try to make some case out of it. Now that's not how you define a smart system. A smart system is one that monitors the external environment and reacts to the external environments in real time. That if you can build such a system, then only call it a smart system. Else, it is a good system, but it is not a smart system. Is this point clear? Are you getting what I'm trying to say? A difference between a technology solution and a smart solution. A smart solution reacts to the real-time environment in real time and then performs actions based on it. Okay, so this is how you define smart. Don't fall into those category of people who will put few sensors into something and call it a smart mirror or a smart table just because they have put a few sensors in it. Anything smart has to react to the external environment in real time. Okay, so with IoT you have people connected to things, so much so that when people undergo heart surgery, they are putting pacemakers into the heart. Now what do the pacemakers do? They keep monitoring a lot of anatomical aspects of the human body, and they keep sending it to the cloud. Now the doctors are monitoring the pacemakers, and if they find that something is good or bad with the patient, they can take action before something bad actually happens. Why? Because they have a lot of analytics data. Imagine, there are millions of patients with such pacemakers. Imagine the data and the insights that has already been collected. So if I'm the one wearing such a pacemaker, and if the pacemaker gives certain data which is risky, because of so much of data and so much of analytics, my doctors will be able to react to me in real time, and they will be able to predict a lot of things, and they will be able to prescribe me medication or treatment, and they will be able to save me. So a lot of these things are happening. People are connected to things, but more importantly in IoT, things are connected to things. So cars can talk to gates. In the US it is very common. that when the car of the house comes, the car performs a handshake with the gate. The gate understands that this car belongs to the house. The garage door opens, and the car comes in, and the garage door again closes down. Now, none of these need any human intervention. Okay, so this is how this is how things get connected to things. Imagine, means when things are connected to things, a lot of communication happens. The alarm clock is talking to the refrigerator. I'm sure you have seen a lot of videos now, of how the refrigerator knows beforehand, what is over in the house. It orders something on the grocery store. The groceries come in before the stuff is getting exhausted and so on. So a lot of these things are very common, things talking to things. Now is the crux, what makes IoT possible? What do you think is the key similarity? Is the key similarity between IoT and internet? Okay, so in internet, people talk to people, or people talk to a system. In IoT, a table can talk to a chair. Now, if you want to make the table talk to a chair, what does the table need to have and what does the chair need to have? Anyone? How can you make the table talk to the chair? What do you need to provide to the table? Yeah, see, when you say communication module, common language, you are aware of what that common language is. I just want you to say, what that common language. Oh. So see, I'll give you a hint, if you want the table to start talking, you need to bring the table onto the internet. Okay. Only when it comes to the internet, it will be able to communicate. If the table is not on the internet, it cannot communicate. Now, how do you bring the table to the internet? What can you do so that the table comes onto the internet, the chair comes onto the internet, and the table and the chair can communicate? Because unless they come to the internet, they will not be able to communicate. So what do you need to do? The answer is very simple. If I tell you, that I buy a laptop, I go to the market, I buy a laptop, I bring it in my house, I start my laptop. Okay. Is my laptop connected to the internet by just switching it on? If I no. Okay. If I have to connect it to the internet, what I need to do to connect the laptop to the internet? I need a Wi-Fi communication, or any kind of a LAN, or probably a Ethernet cable or a Wi-Fi. What happens when I use a Wi-Fi connection? What is the magic that as soon as I have a Wi-Fi connection, the laptop connects to the internet? What is happening behind the scenes? So it's not okay. Actually, I'm not saying it's connected to a network. It's connected to the worldwide web. It's connected to the internet. See, I'm also in a Wi-Fi environment. Do I get connected to the internet? Why only the laptop gets connected to the internet? Is processor the right answer? Come on, you guys know the answer. You have to think a little deep. What is it that allows the computer to connect to the internet by putting it in a Wi-Fi environment, which I cannot connect? If I stand in a Wi-Fi environment, I don't connect to the internet, but a laptop can. Yes, Akhil, that's right. It's a IP address. When you connect something to Wi-Fi or Ethernet, what happens behind the scenes is that that device or that element gets an IP address. Only when that element gets an IP address, that device will be connected to the internet and start talking. So if I need to take the table to the internet, what do I need to do? If I want to take the table to the internet, what do I need to ensure? That the table gets an IP address. That's right. So I need to ensure that the table gets an IP address. Now this is our challenge. We are students. We want to take the table to the internet. We know for sure that we need to give it an IP address. Otherwise, this table cannot talk on the internet. Now what do we do? We know that we need to give the table an IP address. What do we do? How do we make the table IoT enabled? By just putting the table in a Wi-Fi environment, will the table get connected to the internet? Then what do we do? If we want, okay, now listen carefully. If we want to take the table to the internet, there are two things we have to do. We basically want this table to be IoT enabled. Okay, so we are definitely putting sensors on the table. So we are putting a weight sensor, or we are putting a direction, whatever. We are putting some sensor on the table. So what will happen is that the table will be able to know where it is, what is the weight that is put on. So it is sensing something. But if it has to communicate to the cloud, it needs to be on the internet, because the cloud also works through IP address. The table has a sensor, but it doesn't have an IP address. So what do? We give the table a Wi-Fi module or a communication module that is connected to the sensor. Okay. Now, when the sensor generates data, it connects to the communication module, which can be a GSM module or which can be a Wi-Fi module. You have provisioned that module to talk to the cloud, and because you have that module, the table. So when I say the table needs an IP address, what are we actually doing? Indirectly, we are giving all the sensors on that table an IP address. So the sensors collect the data using the IP address of the communication module. It is talking to the cloud. Now, if this was your Arduino project, and you wanted to take the table to the internet, what you would have done? If you wanted to know what is the average weight on the table, you would have put maybe 5 weight sensors, 4 at the corners and one at the center. All these 5 sensors you would have connected to an Arduino. So what does the Arduino does? It collects all the information about the 5 sensors at each point. Now the Arduino talks to the communication module, and all this is fitted with the table. And from the communication module, the data from the sensors is going to the cloud. Are you getting this? Is this clear? So now, if you are thinking about an IoT project, you also have to think, okay, I want to build, um, I want to make my shirt IoT enabled. Now, what do? If you want to make your shirt enabled, you have to think what sensor, what I want to track. So I will need sensors accordingly, but sensors are not enough to communicate with the cloud. I will also need, some processors that can, if you have one sensor, you don't need a processor, but you need to ensure that that one sensor can talk to a communication module. Now, for example, Arduino can talk to a communication module. Can a single sensor talk to a communication module? You will have to find out. If it is possible, you can directly use a sensor and a communication module. If it is not possible, you will have to put some processing unit between the sensor and the communication module. So if I have to make my shirt IoT enabled, I have to put sensors, I have to put some kind of a processor, microprocessor, or whatever Arduino, whatever you want to call it, and I'll have to put a communication module so that the data can be sent to the cloud. Is this clear? This is clear? So what makes IoT possible is the ability to give an IP address to that object. Now, when you are giving an IP address to that object, there are multiple components. There is a sensor, there is a processor, and there is a communication module. When you have all of these three, that object will get an IP address. What is happening is that IPv6 has been designed because it is believed that IPv4 is not sufficient to cover all the objects of this world. So if you want to cover everything, that if you want to cover, all the objects, for example, my pen, pencil, notebook. So it is said that with IPv6, every atom on the planet of this earth can be given an IP address. Those are the potential combinations of IPv6 addresses that can be generated. So everything and everything can get an IP address, and you will have a world of fully connected devices. Okay. Now, why is this important? Now why is why is IoT important? Now, many people will say, that IoT is a great technology. No doubt, IoT is a wonderful technology. But there have been so many wonderful technologies of the past, which have not got the same reaction, same importance, or the same interest that IoT gets. It is because all the major companies of this world have invested heavily. Now, whether you like it or you don't like it, IoT is part of our life. I'm sure many of us have smartwatches or Alexa. How many of us have Alexa in our houses? Does anybody have an Alexa in your house? Yes, so today about 5% of the people will have Alexa in the house. Do we really need the Alexa? Possibly not. If the question is, do we need the Alexa? Probably not. But we still have it. Why? Because Amazon will ensure that whether we like it or we don't like it, whether we see the use or we don't see the use, we will end up buying it. There'll be so much of advertising, so much of marketing, that whether we don't use, there will be Alexa. After 5 years, 90% of the houses will have an Alexa or a similar device in our house. Why? It's not because we need it. It's because all these companies have invested billions and billions of dollars in creating such solutions, and they will ensure that whether we like it or we don't like it, we will be using Alexa. Will we be using sensor based shoes in our lives? Possibly not today, but 5 years down the line, most of us will be using it. Why? Because companies will ensure that we get used to these products. So that is the reason IoT is getting the importance that that we see in today's world. Okay. Now, couple of more things before I end today's session. So couple of quick things. It was said that by the end of 2020, which we are closely getting to, there will be 50 billion connected devices. Okay. So if you look at today's person, there is a home laptop, there is an office laptop, smart TV, Fitband, smart shoes, smart glasses, one or two mobile phones, and each of these has an IP address. So each of these is a connected device. Now, if you do a simple math calculation, and you say 50 billion devices, population of 7.5 billion people, so you are really looking at about 7 devices per person. In India, possibly we are at 7. In Africa, it may be low, but it will get compensated by the Western economies, where each house is 25 sensors, each car is 15 sensors, and so on. So definitely, maybe 50 billion may be exaggerated, but we are definitely in the range of 30 to 40 billion connected devices by the end of this year. Now, as engineers, think about it. Imagine there are 50 billion connected devices. What does that mean? When you say that there are 50 billion connected devices, what does that mean? What does 50 billion connected devices mean? Yes, that's right, ma'am. So it means a large amount of data. Imagine 50 billion connected devices every millisecond, every whatever is the duration, they are all generating data. What is going to happen to all this data? That all these devices are generating. It will be stored on the cloud. It will be analyzed. and we are speaking only about 2020. Okay, so this figure is going to go up drastically by 2025 and 2030. Can you see where the next set of jobs are going to come? They are not going to come with coding, they are not going to come. So obviously there will be jobs in creating systems, but majority of the jobs will be working with data, working with analytics, working with apps. That's where majority of the jobs for engineers will come up with. Why? Because there are going to be so many billions and billions of devices, and each of these devices will be throwing up data like anything. Now imagine, you are in your house. Many of us, have this habit, that we collect things. Okay, and we go on keeping, collecting things. Yeah, acha laga, wo acha laga, and we keep collecting things. And suddenly, after a few years, we realize, that we have collected things unnecessarily. Then what do we do? What do you do when when you reach that stage? You discard a few, but there is, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes energy, right? So when you collect things, you are not aware that at one point in time you will need to spend a lot of energy, time and effort to discard the things that you collected without thinking. Now put the same logic to data. Today people don't see any disadvantages of collecting data, but they go on collecting data. After a few years, these companies are going to scratch their heads. There is going to be so much of data, a large portion of it will be unusable, will be a wasteful collection of data. They will have to put engineers, you know to sort the data, to find out which one is useful, which one is not useful. There are going to be opportunities there as well. And this is exactly the logic that Gmail is also using. So Gmail gives you 15 GB of data. So today, what do? You share, you share 10 MB, 20 MB, 50 MB, 1 GB of files. So because you have 15 GB data, you are creating 2 or 3 Gmail IDs, if you're short. At one point in time, you're going to reach that threshold where the effort of sorting data or managing the data is going to be much more economically valuable than the money that you give to Google to raise from 15 GB to 100 GB. So once you reach that stage, you will say, you know, check the sorting of data. I don't have time to sit and see, which out of the 15 GB data is useful or worth. What I will do, I will buy, 15 GB to 100 GB. It's only 1500 rupees. Let me go to 100 GB. Now, what was difficult in sorting 15 GB of data will become impossible when you reach 100 GB of data. When you reach 100 GB of data, you will buy the 200. So, in a way, Google is kind of ensuring perpetuity for its business model by just giving you 15 GB of. It's good, it's good because it helps us. We get free data storage. But again, I always tell people that when you're collecting data, make sure that every data that you're collecting, you're going to analyze. If you're collecting for the sake of collecting, don't collect. It is going to be a lot of effort to sort it out later. Any data that you collect and you put it on the cloud, so you may just, sensors generate a lot of data. It doesn't mean that all the data that is generated needs to go to the cloud. Today, what is happening? Any IoT project, all the data that sensors generate is taken and stored in the cloud. It is going to be a tough ask later on. So now when you're when you're putting data onto the cloud, see, do you need this data? Yes, send it to the cloud. This data are you going to analyze? Don't think, बाद में देखेंगे, अभी collect करते ना. Design a solution. If you really think कि बाद में देखेंगे इस data का value है, then only, But just because you don't want to put the effort of analyzing whether this data is useful or not, don't push it to the cloud. Push only that data to the cloud which you think you're going to analyze. Again, they say, means one of the reasons why IoT is becoming, very, very popular, they say that, in the airline industry, 50% of the cost is the jet fuel, So if the airline spends 100 rupees in operations, out of that 100 rupees, 50 rupees is only for purchasing the fuel that the airline needs. It is said that if you if you optimize the fuel efficiency by 1%, if you optimize the efficiency of fuel by 1%, 30 billion jet fuel, almost 30 billion jet fuel it will be required less, so it will results in a saving of $30 billion. So if you optimize it 2%, it is 60 billion. Now the question is, can you use all your IoT, whatever sensor systems, and create an efficiency of 1% in the fuel, in the fuel consumption of the airline engine? Possible, yeah. And if you're doing that, you are going to save $30 billion. And when you create that, what is going to be the cost of the system? Maybe 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. But every year, it is going to 1% efficiency is going to save you $30 billion. So that is the reason, people are really looking at IoT as one of the technologies of the future. Okay. So, students, I think there were a few more things that I wanted to cover, but some of the things got, and it's good because I could explain it in detail. But there are a few more slides, and I will share all the slides with you. You can go through that, So there are a couple of more things which, I will just like to conclude, the next big thing, it is said that, IoT will be a big industry. So pay attention. IoT is really important. If you start liking it, if you're, see, and not just IoT, even virtual reality is interesting, augmented reality is interesting, 3D printing is. So I'm not just saying IoT, but, again, because I have been deeply involved in IoT for a long time, I find it really, really interesting. If you're interesting, look at it. So I will leave you with the food for thought. This is what I will end the discussion with. I will just put the question. You can think about the answers, and you can discuss among ourselves. Imagine two driverless cars approaching each other, at 100 meters. So there's no driver. Only one person is sitting in the rear side, reading their newspapers. Both the cars are approaching each other at 100 meters an hour. Okay. And they are on a collision path. So if this was the era of driverless cars, what do you think would be the most effective outcome? So this, I'll leave this session with this food for thought. Think about it, see what answers you come up with, and you can. And again, I would like to say, if you're interested, you can join us on our YouTube channel. We create a lot of videos, on digital technology, and we'll see. So okay, ma'am. I think I'm done with I will share. I think you had emailed with the Google Meet link. I will share the slides on that email itself.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your valuable guidance on Internet of Things. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to HOD Dr. Megha for her support and cooperation, and I also express my sincere thanks to participants for patiently listening to speaker. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll just put the link of my channel. So madam has asked me to put the link of my channel. Let me just put the link of my channel on the chat. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the session. Again, I will say, IoT doesn't start with Arduino. So, whenever I look at students and, and I ask them to explain IoT, they start with Arduino. It hurts me. The IoT is much bigger than what, the Arduino. Arduino is only a means. If you can get your solution right with the sensors, cloud, analytics, etc., it can be anything. Okay. So, all the best. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Y manager Rika,